You guys ready?
Yes.
Everybody ready? Good evening. I would like to call to order East Hempfield Township Board of Supervisors meeting. Tonight's meeting has been advertised to be held in person and online using Zoom with login and call-in information posted on our website. Tonight's video and audio is being recorded. For tonight's meeting, Robert's rules will still apply, and the meeting will be run by the chairman, who will be assisted by an employee managing the Zoom site. During the meeting, in order to offer comment, you must be recognized by the chairman. East Hempfield Township public comment rules will apply for all public comment. You must be a resident or business owner in the township to speak. You must identify yourself by name and address before speaking and sign the guest log for meeting minute purposes or follow the chat procedure already discussed for Zoom attendance. Comment is limited to 3 minutes and must be about the agenda item being discussed, with the exception of public comment for non-agenda items. No action will be taken on a non-agenda item of a non-emergency nature during the public comment period. All comments should be directed towards the board. We will now move on to our first agenda item, and I would ask that you would join me and rise for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. And now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we actually have some fun items here in the beginning of our agenda. Chief, I want to turn it over to you.
Officer Roush, would you come on up here? That's the last time I'm going to say Officer Roush for a while, because at this point moving over, this is Detective Roush. So Allison started with East Hempfield in April of 2014. She had aspirations to be a detective. During her background, if you would speak to Lieutenant Chase, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, he can remember sitting on the sofa as they were talking, and her career aspirations were to be a detective with East Hempfield Township. Through her 11 years, she's worked hard. She's been a field training officer, an evidence tech, CIT, and has attended multiple trainings for interview and interrogation, homicide. She's currently pursuing her master's degree, always striving to do more and to improve herself. Detective Roush, your appointment to the rank of detective is not just a reflection of your hard work, but it's a reflection of your integrity, your persistence, and your commitment to the department. Detective work requires a sharp mind, strong character, and relentless determination. You've shown all that and more. You've overcome obstacles, faced challenges head on, and continued to move forward with professionalism and resilience. It says it says a lot about who you are, not just as an officer, but as a person. You've earned the trust and the respect of your peers, the supervisors, and the community of East Hempfield Township. I have no doubt that you will continue to serve with integrity, dedication, and heart in this new role. On behalf of the department, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have the swearing in of a new officer. Bryce Schaefer, if you could come forward? Say a few words about Bryce before he moves up to do his oath of office, if that works. Okay. Bryce is 27 years old. He comes to us with 3 years of police experience. He's a resident here in East Hempfield and went through our application process. We're excited to have him join our team. He's supported here tonight by lots of family, which is a good thing. He is known to East Hempfield. The officers here, we've worked hand in hand with him over the last 3 years. He has the trust and the respect of our officers, and everyone's pretty excited for him to switch out uniforms moving forward. So, Mr. Wigglesworth, are you doing the oath of office tonight?
Yes. Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the laws of the Commonwealth, and the laws and ordinance of East Hempfield Township, the laws, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. I will uphold, obey, and enforce the law. I will uphold, obey, and enforce the law without consideration to an individual's, without consideration to race, color, sex, religious creed, without, I'm sorry, race, color, sex, religious creed, sexual orientation, age, national origin, ancestry, handicap, for this bill,
Congratulations, welcome aboard.
Welcome. Thank you. Congratulations. Welcome. Thank you.
That's a wrap.
Guys, before you leave, again, we can't thank you enough. We have a great group of men and women who serve East Hempfield Township. We're very proud of you. And these types of occasions are always something we all look forward to. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yep. There went the crowd.
So much for the audience tonight. Thank you.
Okay, next we have the consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of items that are routine in nature and require very little discussion or debate. Is there any comment or questions from the board on the consent agenda items?
Just I'll be abstaining on the last item.
Anyone else? Okay. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items A through E as presented.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Russell, is there a second?
Second.
A second from Mr. Johnson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. I'll now entertain a motion to approve consent agenda F, invoices.
So moved.
Okay, motion for Mr. Brubaker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second for Mr. Johnson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 3-0 with one abstention. Thank you. Up next, we have action items, Brookside Phase 6.
Good evening. Kevin Ember here from Ratu. Also here tonight is Eric Scott representing the applicant, which is 2701 State Road LLC. As Diane pulls the plans up, I can just give a brief overview. Thanks, Diane, for that sheet there. So I believe some of you are familiar with the overall Brookside development and what is Phase 6. There was a prior conditionally approved plan for Phase 6, which is the area north of Swar Run, approximately 30 acres, which is part of the overall Brookside tract. So the area south of Swar Run is in the campus zone. North of Swar Run here is the enterprise zone. And the prior approval was for a larger warehouse building that was the entire enterprise zone on Phase 6. Was it one phase of a 252,000 square foot warehouse, and that was conditionally approved back in 2022. Due to some changes in the market conditions, that phase has since been revised, and we're here tonight with a new final plan for Phase 6. And the enterprise zone has also been separated here. You can see into two separate phases, Phase 6 on the northeast side, Phase 7 on the northwest side. So Phase 7, for your background, has been sold off as a separate condo unit to SCTA, which is the South Central Transit Authority. So they're currently working through their plan process with their own engineer to develop plans for that portion of the enterprise zone. We've been coordinating with them in our design as there is some access coordination which needs to occur and potentially some utility coordination and things like that. But for tonight, we're just discussing the final plan for Phase 6, which is now a 128,000 square foot warehouse building. Access for the site is still a single point with an existing access easement through the adjoining property to the north, which would connect to Yellow Goose Road. There's also a walking trail which surrounds the east side of the building and extends over the existing culvert, which crosses Swar Run, and that'll be extended down in a future phase on the south side of Swar Run to the eastern end of the property. As far as what's proposed, the 120,000 square foot building currently is being set up that it could be one tenant or multiple subtenants, just depending on the market and potential tenants that are interested in the building. So that process is still ongoing. This portion of the site is not being controlled by the Swar Run floodplain restoration as far as handling a lot of the stormwater management. So there's a separate stormwater basin that's proposed in the southeast corner of the property. That's similar to what was proposed previously for this portion of the site, just made some slight adjustments based on the current layout. And there is access fully around the building for fire truck circulation. The other utilities, as far as sanitary, there's an existing sanitary main from LASA, which runs along Swar Run, which we are connecting into. And then the water is actually extended from the master meter for all Brookside, which is in the area of the state road access. So the water would extend under the stream and then service around the building. There would be a fire tank proposed for fire pressure that would serve this building and potentially jointly the SCTA portion of the enterprise zone, depending on their final design. So that's a brief update on where we're at on the plans. Happy to go into detail on anything else. There's also a few waivers requested tonight and modifications. A lot of those were similar to what was previously approved with the conditional approval back in 2022. One or two updates to those. So happy to go through those one by one if the board would like, or just open up to any other questions at this point.
If you could just highlight them, we don't need like an in-depth reading of them all, but if you could just highlight what the modifications and waivers are.
Sure. I'll just go down through how they're listed in the June 6th DMA review letter. Those are the main items outstanding. There's a couple other just typical coordination items as far as the outstanding comments with coordination of the MPDS permit and utility providers cost opinion, but otherwise we've addressed their technical comments and don't have any issue addressing the rest of them. As far as the modifications, just real briefly, number one is a typical plan requirement just based on the scale to allow a larger scale for the overall sheets. There's a few requirements related to the sidewalk and walking trail. So just because this portion of the property doesn't really have any frontage right along the road, we're in an access easement. We're asking for a waiver for additional sidewalk and curb along either the public street or any other phases of Brookside for this phase. That has been a typical waiver approved throughout the plan process. Waiver number 3 is also kind of related to the walking trail. That was requesting to not provide lighting for that walking trail, just given the area this is in. The idea is that this is a dawn to dusk trail. We don't really want to encourage 24-hour access around the industrial building here. Number 4 was similar as far as sidewalk pavement widening along a township street. Number 5 was similar as far as widening along a PennDOT street, which we don't have any frontage on this phase, but again, part of the overall Brookside parcel. Number 6 was related to the maximum loading ratios in the basin, which is the amount of our drainage area, impervious area to the basin. Based on some analysis by the soil scientists that we use to do the infiltration testing here, we felt comfortable with some higher loading ratios, and discussing that with the township engineer, they did not have a concern with that. And then the final requirement or waiver request was one we had worked through with township staff, including Diana on some of the emergency services. So there's a requirement in the ordinance as far as if you have over 500 average daily trips for traffic considerations, that you have a second primary access to the site. In this case, what the warehouse by itself is proposing would be less than that 500 trips. I believe we're around 268. But with the future SCTA Phase 7, I think there was some concern just to make sure that there was some documentation as far as their access. So their engineer and them would be looking at a potential additional access to Yellow Goose Road. That's yet to be determined if that's feasible, and an easement would be provided. But we did demonstrate, we can get a fire truck fully around the warehouse building. We did also widen the cartway of that connection proposed from Yellow Goose to that first intersection. So from here to here, we widened that to a 36-foot cartway, just with the idea that if there was some incident, most likely a fire truck could still get by in that situation, and then fully access around the building to either this access point or the other access point. And there is an access easement in place for future use by SCTA for, the access that comes through this portion of the site. And the intent would be if there is a second access provided for them in the future, that there would be, equal access for the warehouse property in Phase 6 to use use that as well. So that was what we had looked at. There's also just, if there would be an extreme event and multiple fire trucks would be provided, there is access to the south that potentially they could run a hose from the future Phase 5. If you remember that, that's a future apartment phase on the south side. There's emergency access that's going to proposed as that phase that would run along parallel to Swar Run. So potentially a fire truck could get down here and pull a hose across to the industrial building in an extreme event, just as an additional layer of protection. But those are the brief overview of the couple waivers. So we are requesting approval of the waivers tonight, along with recommendation on the conditional approval of the final plan for Phase 6.
Are there any questions from the board?
Yes, I did speak with Nate via email today, and he said the planning group that he's on did approve this, or they suggested we approve it. I do have a question, with apologies to Mr. Scott back there, because I know I asked him this one time before, and I remember the answer was enlightening, but I don't remember exactly what it was. So my question is, like, we just see so many warehouses springing up these days, and just wondering, like, is the market excellent for them or pretty good? And like, can we be comfortable that like 10 years from now, there won't be a bunch of abandoned warehouses? Not that anyone could predict the future, but just any thoughts on that?
Address that.
No, can you come to the mic, please? Thank you, Eric.
In terms of the current market, we're seeing significant demand for the smaller size warehouse space, 20,000 plus or minus square feet, which is why, although it could be a single tenant building, we have a demisable up to 5 spaces that range from about 15,000 to 50,000 square feet. So we're already currently fielding some interest and requirements for the smaller sizes, as well as one that came in today for the entire building. But I would say in Lancaster County, the industrial market is very strong. I can't speak for 10 years from now, but we are in a supply constrained market with a strong manufacturing base, with a diverse economy. It'd be hard pressed for me to see that, with our steady pace of growth, that we'd be facing empty warehouses a decade from now.
Have there been things that have changed in the past 10 years or is it more of like Lancaster County based is getting a lot more of those, or have things changed, like as far as where things get manufactured or how they get distributed?
Things are in constant state of change. I mean, in my previous life, we were building speculatively big box warehouses, 1 million square foot warehouses. And you have to be a supply chain logistic expert. Pendulum always swings, whether you are just in time and want the product to be closer to the consumer, where you have a decentralized base of warehousing, or it sometimes goes where you have big centralized regional distribution centers. I don't know if that answered your question, but it's constantly changing based on the supply chain, and also, manufacturing labor too, and relationships with international suppliers and ports and all that. So really it follows the international supply chain. And so that happens.
Yep, thank you.
Yep.
Any questions or comments?
None.
The only question I have for Phase 7, will they be responsible for their own stormwater?
Yeah, so at this point, that is the intent. They would be responsible for their own stormwater and their own modification to the NPDES permit, which covers the whole site. And they're aware of that.
Okay. That's really all I had. Are there any questions or comments from the audience on this? Any from Zoom? Okay. Well, hearing none, then I will entertain a motion to approve modification waiver requests 1 through 4, 6, and 7, and conditionally approval for request number 5 for the Brookside Phase 6 warehouse final plan project Township File 19-01.14, subject to all staff and engineering comments.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Johnson, second by Mr. Russell. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. And then, is there a motion to approve the final plan for the Brookside Phase 6 Warehouse Project Township File number 19-01.14, subject to all staff and engineering comments?
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Brubaker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Russell. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Up next, we have 3020 Shennick Drive. Michael Whitmore.
Well, this is all new to me. Thank you for adding me to the agenda for tonight. My name is Mike Whitmore, and I'd like to speak about my property at 3020 Shank Road. We bought the property in 2023, and we had a long laundry list of items that were required for us to buy the property, and one of those was the ability to park our motorhome, having room. And there was a smooth transition from Shank Road in the yard. I was able to back it right in the yard, and it worked, that was fine for 2 years. Now, this year we've had the monsoon. There's been so much rain, and I started to get ruts in the driveway, in the yard. I only park the motorhome at our property about 4 months out of the year. In the wintertime, we have indoor storage for it, and the other 6 months of the other 6 months of the summer, we're traveling, about 2 months out of the year. So I ended up, backing the thing in the yard, and I started getting ruts, and thought, well, that's not good for appearance in the yard, and as well as carrying mud out into onto Shank Road. So we ended up not knowing that I needed a permit for that. Ended up having an excavator come and put what's shown in red there. So the property to the south of us is owned by Dr. Zarko, and there's a 50-foot wide area that travels back to his farmland, and it has the bell opening because if that ever gets developed into a housing project, that would be the road that would go back to service that area. So I stayed to the north of his property line, but I was unaware of a 3-foot setback that's required. So Dr. Zarko, brought that to my attention. I guess he had came here to the township to find out what the setback was, and he then visited me and explained that. So I'm more than happy to change that on the north side. Right now, it's angled on both sides of the 9-foot wide area. If I make that straight, exactly where the pointer is, that gives me 108 inches from his property line, well over the 3-foot required, the setback required. What I also didn't realize is that there's a variance to have a second driveway to a property. So this turned into a real train wreck. So now I didn't correct the north side. I ended up getting a letter from Mr. Madonna indicating that I needed to remove the driveway. So, well, what can we do in order to keep the driveway? And he said I needed to come here and request the variance. So that's why I'm here.
Diane, any comments? from staff?
Perry actually has some comments. Go ahead, Perry.
Not really comments if the board so desires. It still would have to have some sort of zoning approval, I believe. And also, it would need to be paved at where it meets the road. We do not allow just a stone driveway that would touch the road. But other than that, there's no sight distance issues there. So again, it would be up to the board whether they would want to grant this.
Okay.
And
And
then,
when you say, Perry, it has to be paved, how far from the roadway does it have to be paved?
I believe just out of the right of way, which I think that's a 33-foot right of way there, so it's not very far. But the paving just prevents the edge of the road from breaking up because a lot of times the stone will settle. But yeah, I don't think it's much. Again, it would just have to be just to the edge of the right of way.
So you're talking 5 feet?
Yeah, 5, 6 feet. I mean, again, I don't exactly remember the right of way there, but that would just be something we would have to address.
Okay. And you're okay with that?
Yes, that would be fine.
and then Mr. Sturgis also has comments on the zoning.
Yeah, the zoning ordinance does require all driveways to be paved or pavers. It does not allow stone.
So we're, if I understand correctly, this particular portion of our ordinance, in other words, most variances go before the zoning hearing board. And this particular part of our ordinance puts us in charge of granting this variance. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
The-
As far as the road ordinance portion,
Correct. Do we have the ability to grant a waiver for the pavement?
I don't believe, I'm not sure if that would be allowed or not.
I'm not talking about the 5 foot, I'm talking about the rest of it.
That would have to be the zoning hearing board. They're the waiver authority for zoning ordinance stuff.
I hate to send him to, yeah, I mean, I feel like we've gone through enough here. Is there, we're 100% certain that the ordinance requires stone for the entire driveway,
Paving.
or I'm sorry, paving?
It's kind of weird because for a parking pad for a RV or camper, it allows paved or stone, but the setback for that has to be behind the front of the house. It has to be in the side or rear yard. So leading up to that point, it needs to be paved.
I mean, my interpretation or thought of it, this is being used for the parking, right? It's not like this is part of a neighborhood with houses on top of each other.
Well, I have some pictures here if you'd care to view what it kind of looks like coming from the south. My house and shrubbery completely shield the appearance of the RV coming from the north. There's the 50-foot road that isn't a road, a 50-foot opening. The neighbor's house is set way back, so it doesn't provide any interference, vision, situation, from the neighbor. So if I can approach so this is right at the driveway. So that you can actually, that's the mirror of the motorhome parked there right now.
Yeah.
Well, you already.
There you go.
And so this is what it looks like when you're traveling north. So like I'm right at my driveway now. So all the way coming down, you can't see the motorhome. And then coming from the south, you know, that's the appearance of what it looks like. And I mean, I can actually go back a little farther. I had it parked there and I moved it.
So I know we have an ordinance and we would like the motorhome to be parked behind, or is it behind the front of the house? Is that?
Correct, behind the front of the motorhome, behind the front of the house.
And I don't know how your neighbors are. I don't know if they would be complaining or not. If it's not, is there a way that you can get that back to further so that it is with the house?
Yes, I can. I mean, certainly the stoned area needs to be made back farther. I can't go back exactly straight because of the tree, the big pine tree there, but I can, you know, angle it and get it along the side there.
For me personally, and I'm going to leave the rest of it up to you, I'm just going to say where I'm at with this. I don't want to make him pave the whole way back there if we don't have to. I would like to help solve his problem, and if he's willing to park it back there, I think the main thing is, you know, people complaining about being able to see the motorhome, and if he meets our criteria with that, that's what I would like to do, but I'll hear from everyone else.
I did speak to the neighbor that's just on the other side of the 50-foot opening, and they have no issue with it. He said they actually use my motorhome as a landmark to tell the people where their house is. And Dr. Zarko, the same, he didn't have any issues with it sitting there other than, you know, I was, you know, the 3-foot setback, you know, because he was concerned that sometime in the future, if he wanted to put curbing in those radiuses, then, you know, so if I was over too far, that would interfere or that would change, you know, his future plans. And I certainly understand and, you know, want to correct that for sure.
Yeah, a question. Are you willing to pave it? Yeah.
I would pave it if I have to.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's a 13-ton motorhome. So when you park it on macadam, you know, it ends up, you know, sinking down in it. So you'd have to park it somewhere and let the macadam, you know, set up for quite some time till, you know, you don't end up with big ruts in it.
Hmm.
I certainly can understand the stoned area if it's not taken care of and weeds and stuff grow up in it. That certainly would not be my property. You know, I keep a nice clean property, so the concern of weeds growing underneath the motorhome, you know, is not an issue. And again, the amount of time that it's parked there is minimal. So it's not like it's a parking lot for, you know, 12 months out of the year.
Thank you. Yeah, so I've been on the board here a year and a half, and this is the first time something like this has come up. So, yeah, I'm open to whatever you guys who have experienced this quite a bit, you know, I'll go along with the majority here.
So we've gotten complaints before about motorhomes parked in the front yard or unsightly, that sort of thing. I don't think that's the issue here. But I think for us, we've got to be careful that we don't set a precedent that allows that to be in the front yard. And I think that's our concern. I don't think we've ever really gotten a complaint about whether it's gravel or paved or not.
In this situation, I could care less if it's gravel or, I mean, it seems actually to be, actually a better use with it being gravel than being blacktop. And I would agree with you that it would become a maintenance issue with a piece of equipment that heavy on top of it.
You know, to pave up to the road, I you know, support that 100%. We could certainly take care of that.
The idea of paving in the right of ways is to keep the last couple of feet from gravel washing onto the road, which is a pretty common practice, and I agree with that position. But I think just for driveways in general, there should be at least an opportunity for our homeowner to state their case, like we just heard here today, of an alternative material to just blacktop. And in this case, I think gravel is an appropriate use. And I would echo Mr. Wigglesworth's position with at least getting it more aligned into a side yard situation, which is if you pull it back more, that is a little bit of a touchy situation with a lot of residents in other parts of the township. And there would be a potential for a precedent in that situation, but I have no problem with the gravel. And if there's anything that's going to cause us to have to go back to the zoning hearing board, I think we need to have another discussion about looking at our zoning hearing or our zoning ordinance at this point. This is something that should be able to handle at the Board of Supervisors level and not have somebody have to take on the expense of a zoning hearing, which would be significant.
And not two different processes.
Yep. So this is one that should be handled at the Board of Supervisor level. So if there's anything that would cause a flagging of that, I would suggest maybe we pause that part to have another discussion about our driveway ordinance. If there's anything in this situation that would cause this to have to go before the zoning hearing board.
So are you okay with authorizing him to do this now? And if there's an issue, we need to clean up the ordinance
Yep.
at a future meeting?
I think, yep, that's a fine position.
So just so I'm clear as to what we're proposing, so we would have the right of way paved in as far as that right of way would extend. And then beyond that, it would be stone far enough back into the yard that the front of the RV would be approximately even with the front of the home, correct?
Yes.
And that would all be gravel, just paved on the right of way. Okay. Yeah, I'm good with that. I think that's
You're
reasonable.
comfortable with pulling it back a little bit more? Because that is a pretty big complaint over the years with RVs and stuff like that, and we try and get the RVs into the side of the yard, not in the front.
Right, so I mean, certainly I can see it if you got a whole block of homes.
Yep.
You know, and there's, 10 homes all in a row and you got the motorhome nose sticking out the front. But I mean, I get that. That isn't what happens here, but, it's, somebody could complain, so I get it.
We appreciate that, so.
Do you want to make the motion?
Yeah.
I guess first, is there any comments or questions from the audience in regards to this? Any from Zoom? Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to authorize a second driveway at 3020 Shink Drive, provided the applicant complies with all township regulations and complies with the discussion of tonight, and subject to no further action by the zoning hearing board.
No, I did submit a building permit or a permit afterwards.
Building permit's different than zoning hearing board.
Okay.
Yeah, so we don't want you to have to go through the zoning hearing board
For this issue.
for this
Okay.
issue.
Second.
So there's a motion by Mr. Russell, second by Mr. Brubaker. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Okay, thank you for your patience in this process.
Authorization to hire police. And Chief, you want to?
In our most recent hiring process, we have two applicants, Clay Weaver and Aaron Coleman, who have both successfully completed all components of our hiring, and we'll be starting the Hack Academy on July 7th. Academy's 6 months, so we'll see them hitting the road probably in January, and then they'll be on their own off of their field training and active police officers April, May of next year. So the process takes some time since we're setting to the academy, but they both come highly recommended. Clay has grown up in Lancaster and has been living in Kentucky and wanted to move back home. He has some correctional experience, and Aaron lives currently up in the Reading area and is a Berks County Deputy Sheriff.
So good news, young blood.
We were lucky this round to get 3 good ones, so I think we're very pleased.
Any questions or comments from the board on this?
None.
None.
Any questions or comments from the audience on this? Any from Zoom? Okay. Well, then I will entertain a motion to hire Clay Weaver and Aaron Coleman effective June 30th, 2025 as Police Department cadets who will be attending the Hack Police Academy.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Johnson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Russell. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Leaf collection. Ms. Garber.
Perry actually counts.
Okay. Mr. Madonna.
Yes, as noted that I had given you copies of the bid results and the my memo. The current contract was a 3-year contract and that did expire in 24. And this contract also has 2 one-year extensions. And this would be the first year of an extension. And you can see the price has gone up a little bit. But again, our current number of $214 a load was actually bid almost 4 years ago. So, you know, prices have naturally gone up. We do have this amount covered in the budget. So I don't really see a problem. This gentleman has been doing leaves for us for over close to 25 years, has done a great job. And we have really had, all the times we've bid it, we've really never had anybody else bid on this. It's kind of a unique job, but the one time that we did have somebody else bid on it, they were significantly higher than today's, price. So it would be my thoughts of, continuing on with this service.
Any comments or questions from the board?
They do a good job, and like Mr. Madonna said, there really hasn't been anybody else bidding on it, so we almost, we'd be foolish if we didn't approve the extension at this point. There's not like there's somebody out there in the wings waiting to collect our leaves at this point. In fact, we might have to beg him to keep providing the service, because I understand he's up there in the years. Mr.
Yeah,
Madonna.
I don't know how many more years he might continue this, so.
So we're at his mercy at this point, and we need to keep him happy.
Yeah. A question, does he use all of his own equipment or does he use Hempfield equipment?
Basically, the township supplies the leaf pickers and the leaf boxes, and he supplies the trucks and the manpower for this. And again, if I don't know that anybody would do it if we didn't offer the machinery, because it's just not a piece of equipment that your normal landscapers and other construction people keep. And we do have 5 units, and he can he usually starts out with 1 or 2, and then at the peak season he can have 4 or 5 units out running at the same time.
Right. And does he do it for the other township or any other townships in Lancaster? Do you know? Just
I believe he does. I think in the past couple of years he's done it for Lancaster Township with separate crews and separate equipment. He does have some of his own equipment, but Lancaster Township is considerably smaller than us. So, but I do not believe he does not have that contract this year. So.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, my questions had nothing to do with approving it, just trying to learn more about what happens.
Mr. Brubaker?
No question.
Any questions from the audience? Any from Zoom? Okay. Hearing none, then I will entertain a motion to accept and authorize signature on the fall 2025 leaf bid of $244.10 per load.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Brubaker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Johnson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Up next, we have some resolutions on policy coming up. There's a resolution 2025-17, which is the capital asset management policy. Mrs. Garber, you want to give us an explanation?
Each year we have an audit done for the township, and this year in reviewing our capital asset list with our changeover to new finance software and different things that we're seeing in our audit, it was recommended by our auditors that we enact a capital asset management policy. What that does is allows us to set a threshold for the equipment that we track and capitalize. And so the policy you have before you was created by staff using other best practice examples provided to us by the auditors, approved by the auditors, and it sets a $15,000 threshold for capitalized assets for the township.
Are there any questions on this from the board?
No, this was discussed with the finance committee and no issues.
Any from the audience? Any from Zoom?
No.
Okay. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-17, establishing the township's capital asset management policy.
So moved.
A motion for Mr. Russell. Is there a second?
Second.
Second for Mr. Brubaker. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Up next, we have the policy to update the right to know policy to align with the PAORO standards.
So the state has provided an update to the Open Records Office standards and recommended updates to right to know policies across the board. Our policy is straight from their recommended policy. The only differences are, of course, information specific to the township. And what this does is it allows us to avoid having to respond to requests that are not submitted properly, specifically those that do not include name and address for the requester. It doesn't impact anyone's access to the records. It just allows us to prevent those anonymous requests that are being sent out by the hundreds and thousands, and lets us be a little bit more efficient and effective with our right to know practices.
Any questions or comments from the board on this?
No.
Any from the audience? Any from Zoom?
No.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-18, establishing the township's right to know policy.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Johnson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Brubaker. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Up next, Resolution 2025-19, to amend the fee schedule.
So we had a first instance of a need for an appeal fee for a local agency law come up recently. In speaking with our solicitor, Susan Pfeiffer, she advised us that we needed to update our fee schedule to include a provision for an appeal to the local agency law. We have set that at $600, which is the same as the zoning hearing board appeal cost. Local agency law governs the practice and procedures of hearings before local agencies such as the township in the absence of another state law that governs the subject matter. So in this case, it allows us to require fees for hearings such as liquor licenses, stormwater management ordinance violations, appeals, and so on. So this allows us to create a catch-all category that can be applied as needed in the future for appeals that don't fit into any other fees within our schedule.
Any questions on this?
Nope.
No.
Any Comments or questions from the audience? Okay. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to amend the 2025 fee schedule by adding an appeal fee for local agency law. Appeal set at $600. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Brubaker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Up next, we have old business. Okay, under old business, we have two items that are reoccurring that have been on the agenda. First is the fire emergency service. The rising costs of these services are obviously impacting our township budgets and will continue to do so as we move forward in the future. I think we've talked about that, and we're expecting from our last meeting, expecting some information back at our next meeting. Is that right?
Yes.
There's going to be some information that the finance working group works on, and you guys will get at the same time we see it.
Okay. Is there anything else under that old business item that we wish to discuss tonight? Okay. Any comments from the audience on that item? Okay. Zoom?
No.
Okay. And then also our 250th anniversary thoughts and ideas for the celebration. Again, looking for different creative ways to celebrate 4th of July, our Independence Day next year. Anything that anybody wanted to add tonight to that discussion?
Yeah, the rec committee didn't meet on this subject. I'm looking at the notes that perhaps Diane would cover in the manager's report, but we had met a couple weeks ago, and I'll just read what it said. Ideas of what the township could do. We discussed timing, what to include, what others are doing, fireworks, expand programming used during the Memorial Day services, including school, HARC, surrounding municipalities, so here's the bottom line. Here's what we all came up with at the end of the meeting, and we thought it was a good idea to expand the August National Night Out festivities, since there's already a program base and community interest. The point of that is, instead of starting at ground zero on the 4th of July, which is a Saturday next year, and competing with all the other events that are going to be going on nationwide, we would join forces with August National Night Out, and that seemed to get the most traction in the meeting. So that nothing's definite, but that was the direction we were heading.
I think it's great. I think we can also expand our Memorial Day services too. We do that each year at Salunga Park. It would be nice to have a lot of township involvement in that ceremony too. So I think we can really expand on that one too.
That sounds good. I like it. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, and just to add, I wasn't really that familiar with the National Night Out in August, but my understanding now, I've missed it last year, I suppose. I didn't know it was even going on, but it's a big police event.
It is. It was rained out last year, so you didn't miss it. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, big police event, and just a lot of activities, and other years we have had like really good turnout right out here, right?
Yes, very big turnout.
Yeah, so that felt good to me, that approach.
Good.
And the goal with that would be to not take away in any way from the National Night Out event that our police do, to bring the community in and build relationships with them, but instead to build on that and draw even additional people in to see the township, the history, the emergency services, and to celebrate that anniversary.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Anything from the audience? Anything from Zoom on this? Okay. Good idea. New business, any new business? Okay, hearing none. Traffic Commission report. We met tonight at 6 o'clock for Traffic Commission. Again, there's just been a pattern lately where there have been no new issues occurring for Traffic Commission. So with staffs, with consulting staff, we've decided to go to an every other month schedule with Traffic Commission. So we will be holding meetings in August, October, and December for Traffic Commission, and then reevaluate at the end of the year to see how that works. In addition, if there's a need that arises that we should have a Traffic Commission meeting, we can always add one in the middle there to accommodate residents. But right now, I think it would be a better and more efficient use of staff's time if we went to the every other meeting, every other month schedule. Moving on to public comment. Is there any public comment tonight? Okay. Any comment from Zoom?
No.
Okay. Manager's report.
You have Cindy's report. I will hit some highlights. If there's something that you have a question on or want me to give further detail on, please let me know. But it is a rather lengthy report and she gave you lots of detail since she's not here this evening. 2025 paving continues as scheduled and it is occurring across the Wheatland Hills and Glenbrook area beginning in just a couple of weeks, primarily Charmaine, Conestoga, Cornell, Dartmouth, Eisenhower, Linwood, Princeton, Ridgeview, Tulane, Wheatland, Wilson, and Yale. And the residents in those areas will receive notification from Public Works if they are impacted in any way. The Centerville Road South project continues. It has been impacted by our ongoing rain and wet weather, but they still anticipate a completion date, actually, hopefully earlier than the August 18th date listed in the report, but definitely by the end of summer. BR Kreidler has begun the signal work at Lidditz Road and Route 72, so that's progressing nicely, and we'll see that begin to show some actual signs of signals there over the next couple of months. The Noldor Park project is moving forward. We are working with the contractors to get that up and running. The park will be closed as of July 14th, and we will put notification of that out across all of our platforms. We're also going to get some temporary signage put up so that people are aware the closure is coming. That is for the upgrades to the Noldor Park with the addition of the blue-green connector trailhead. There will be temporary parking available along Farmingdale Road. Lancaster County Solid Waste Management has an access point on Farmingdale Road that we're going to work with them to expand into a gravel parking area. We have a lot of birders and others who use that park on a very regular basis. And so that will provide them access to the Farmingdale Trail system that exists on Laxwama's property and also to the other end of our trails, which will be open and outside of the construction area. The Rec Authority continues to move forward with determining what is their best option for the Pro Shop project. We had a recent meeting with Gorski Engineering on a design build option, so they are continuing to work through that. All three, however, did indicate that in order to get, in addition to that, we met with 3 financing firms. All 3 of those firms indicated that a township guarantee for the loan will allow the Rec Authority to get the best rate on that loan. And so that will come before you at some point in time and is something for you to be thinking about. Will be discussed with the Finance Committee when that comes about. I had intended to bring in the governor's award that the township received and just slipped my mind, but Roger, Bob, Cindy, and myself attended an award ceremony last week. And the township was given the Governor's Award for Environmental Excellence for the Amos Herr Wetlands project out here at the park. It was a very nice ceremony. We received a plaque as well as a glass trophy style award. And then late last week, we received a commendation from Senator-elect Malone as well. The policies that we approved tonight have further detail in her report. The Dream Park is in need of rubber replacement. There are places where it is deteriorating and failing, and we have looked at several different options. Staff and the Park and Rec group have reviewed those options, and the recommendation is that the work move forward so that we don't have any further liability. The quote is from River Valley. It's for $147,585. That includes removing what is there and replacing it with new rubber play area surfaces. This is budgeted in the 2025 budget for $140,000. And so the plan is to move forward with that unless there is a significant objection to that.
Do we need to still take a motion to accept that bid, though?
I
dollar.
don't believe so because it's a contractor that we use for service. Perry, is that correct?
This particular group is CoStar's approved.
Yeah.
And therefore it's based on CoStar's pricing.
And
go ahead.
just to add one thing, that project would begin in September is what was mentioned at the rec meeting,
Correct.
assuming approval.
Correct. The goal would be to get it done during this warm season, but after primary use of the park when school's back in session.
Is this the first time that's been replaced since it was originally done, or had this, how long ago was that? How long is it?
Perry, do you want to speak to the age of the Dream Park and the replacement?
I think the Dream Park is, I believe, is 8 years old already, eight or 9 years old. And we've have patched it several times. It did not hold up to what we hoped it would. We believe this product that we're looking at is much better. We believe there was also some installation issues early on, but we believe that this one should give us a longer service life.
Okay, thank you.
We discussed the Knoll Road Community Park. The blue-green connector continues, and they're moving forward with that and excited for what they are doing there. They have had to modify a portion of the trail. It will now utilize a short, excuse me, a short piece of Farmingdale Road traveling under our bridge on Farmingdale Road over to West Roseville Road. And you will see documentation for that forthcoming from Cindy on the blue-green connector.
Yeah.
No major changes to our stormwater projects.
Excuse me a second, back on the Knoll Road Community Park. We've talked about naming the park, but I think we should wait for Tom to get back unless we want to do it. I'm kidding when I said, because I know Tom's very interested in that. So, yeah, just wanted to mention that it's still being discussed, and it'll be in an upcoming meeting when Tom's here.
So, just taking a step back, I just did some quick research. It looks like that even though it was on CoStar's, we still need to take public action as a board on that. So I think you need to do a little research on that, just as a warning.
Okay, I'll let Cindy know that.
So it says here that it's 1902 in the Commonwealth Procurement Code. It's still required for CoStar's for over $100,000.
Should be an easy problem.
It would be, no, I'm against it. I just don't want to have anything getting challenged.
Anything else, Ms. Garber?
The admin group met. I was not at that meeting. You were. Any highlights that you feel need to be discussed other than the policies that we already reviewed today? And the additional policy that you requested staff work on to create the donations policy, creating an application process and written request for all nonprofit organizations, including the fire companies, Hempfield Rec, the library, Amos Herr Foundation, and so on.
Yep.
And then, as Bob indicated, the Park and Rec group also met. And pretty much everything that we discussed in that meeting has already been discussed, other than we are working on determining how we can best expand the community gardens for next year's garden season. We currently have more requests for plots than we have plots available. So we'll be reviewing how we can best accommodate that, if possible, at the Nisley Basin property without causing future detriment to the work that's been done there. So I
You-
think
Yeah, and I would be in favor if there's that much interest to finding another location too, maybe on the Knoll track for next year as well, if we need to.
Okay.
If the Park and Recs would be willing to take a look at that. And I just feel like we have so much space that we're not utilizing in something like that. If there's people and there's a need, it would be a good use of our resources.
that's all I have, unless you have other questions.
I do not. Anyone else?
No.
No.
Anything else? One last time. Okay. Well, with that, we're going to adjourn our meeting, and it is 8:11 p.m. And thank you for coming out.